Today we're doing the second to last lesson in Module 4, okay, Lesson 32. And your learning goal says I can understand, write, and solve math expressions. Another way to say math expressions is number sentences, yes? So it's I can understand, write, and solve number sentences.
Good morning.
We're going to start by looking at some math expressions. Since today, our learning goal is I can understand, write, and solve math expressions. Go ahead and copy these two math expressions into your notebooks. Leave a little bit of room in between each one. We can see that a difference between the two expressions is that the second one here has parentheses here. Now, remember the order of operations? What do you always do first? What does P stand for? Parentheses. So if you were solving these problems, solving these math expressions, what would you do first in this first example? You would do 12 divided by 3. That's the part you would do first, right? But because this bottom one has parentheses, you would do 3 plus 1 first, wouldn't you? Okay, we're not going to solve them yet. Please don't solve them. Let's see. So that's the power of the parentheses. P of the P, power of the parentheses. Makes you change what you do first. I wonder if that would change the value of the expressions. Don't solve them yet to find out. Next, I want to ask you, how would you say these using words? This is 12. So it's, what do you do first? 12 divided by 3 or 3 plus 1? Okay, when you're using division, what word means division? Quotient. Good, because here I'm finding the quotient of 12 and 3, and then I'm adding 1, right? So I can say this one is, this for top expression would be 1 more than the quotient of 12 and 3. Do you see how that's how you could say it using words? Okay. When we're saying words, when we're using words to describe math expressions, we don't say words like divided by, times, plus, or minus. Instead of divided by, what do we say? The quotient of two numbers, right? If instead of saying plus, what do we say? The sum of, so we could say this is the sum of the quotient of 12 and 3 and 1. Do you see that? Okay. Instead of minus, what do we say? The difference of two numbers. Instead of times, what do we say? The product of, or this many copies of something else. Okay. So this first one we could say, again, 1 more, because plus could be more too, right? Say 1 more than the quotient of 12 and 3. Or we could say the sum of 1 and the quotient of 12 and 3. Do you see that? Okay. What about this bottom one? Is it also the quotient of 12 and 3? No, this is the quotient of 12 and the what? Sum of 3 and 1. So do you see how the words are different even though all the numbers and operations are the same? Now let's see if their value is the same. In this top expression, we have to first find the quotient of 12 and 3, which is what? 4. And we have to find the sum of that and 1. So what's the value of that first expression? 5. Down at the bottom, we're first finding the sum of 3 and 1, which is? So then it becomes the quotient of 12 and the sum of 3 and 1. So 12 divided by 4, which is? 3. Do these two expressions have the same value? No. Before we look at the options and see which ones are the same, let's see if we can challenge ourselves to write this expression into numbers. The difference between 7 and 4. Difference tells us we're using what operation? Subtraction. So if I'm finding the difference between 7 and 4, I could write that as 7 minus 4. Do you agree? But it's the whole thing, so I have to put that into parentheses. We're thinking of that as one quantity, right? What is the value of the difference of 7 and 4? 3. But because it says the difference between 7 and 4, we have to write 7 minus 4. Do you see this comma? That tells me I'm talking about that whole quantity, and I can show I'm doing that whole quantity by putting it in parentheses. Okay? If it's divided by 1/5, wouldn't it look like this? Right? Can I show you something? If the sentence said the difference between 7 and 4 divided by 1/5, it could be 7, the difference between 7 and 4 divided by 1/5. Right? The difference is because this comma is there, it's telling you it's this whole thing divided by 1/5, not divided by 4 divided by 1/5. Make sense? Okay. Very good. Why does this example right here not work? First of all, if we're doing addition, would that be the difference? No. And is it 4 divided by 1/5 or the difference between 7 and 4 divided by 1/5? Okay, so you can see again, this comma right here tells you that these parentheses are not in the right place. Do you see that difference there? Okay. What about this next example? 7 minus 4 divided by 1/5. Is that what we expect?
Yeah.
Okay, very good. Oops, hold on one second. Let me switch back to my pen tool. Very good. Okay, what about this bottom one here? 7 minus 4 divided by, or over 5. How would I write that using division? That's 7 minus 4, and what is it being divided by?
5.
So what's the difference? It's being divided by 5 instead of being divided by?
1/5.
See the difference there? Okay, and that's why that one's not correct. What about this last one? 1/5 divided by, in parentheses, 7 minus 4. How would you say that one using word form? 1/5 divided by the difference between 7 and 4. How's that different than the words that are up there? Sanatin?
So, the difference was 1/5 divided by the difference of between 7 and 4, while the one we're doing is the difference between 7 and 4 divided by 1/5.
In this example here, what's the whole?
1/5.
What's the divisor? Okay, in this example here, what's the whole? What's the divisor?
1/5.
So you can see that we swapped the whole and the divisor, so this is also not correct.